I think you saw our slides a little bit earlier. Well, thanks for the opportunity to present to you guys. I'm going to talk about a different aspect of services that we have and things that applies to all of us, and it really has to do around identity, and that's what we build. So to start out with, if you look at all the type of services that you want to access, and it could be anything from air travel, getting car rentals, hotel, and so forth, one of the things that you have to do is you have to be able to identify yourself, to be able to get access to what you want. And people are going to want to be able to get that access rather quickly. They want to use the services that they're using or they're looking to use, not having to prove themselves. So if you look at, and what we do with that is provide that by increasing security and user privacy, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Now, if you look at the current experience, when you actually travel, you could be at a check-in, you want to check in your luggage or whatever that it is, you're going to stand in line. Then you may have to go through a security check, and it could be anything from 10 minutes to an hour, unpredictable amount of time that you'd be waiting there. Then you're going to have to go in, show your passport, especially if you do international travel, and your boarding pass in order to get on again. You get on the plane, you travel, you get to your destination, and one of the first things that you got to do is you're going to have to stand in line again to get your luggage. After you get that, you may have to go through immigration again. One more time, you're going to have to wait in line to get your car or any form of transportation that you have. You finally get to the hotel, and everybody else has rushed to the hotel, and then you're going to stand in line again in order to check in. So if you look at the experience that the user was looking for, it's either traveling for pleasure or business, but they end up spending a substantial amount of time standing in different lines, trying to prove who they are for services that they've already prepaid for oftentimes. So what we do is we create a single digital ID that users can actually carry with themselves, and we load that up with 4 things. Something that you remember, your access control using Touch ID so that other people can't access your stuff. We actually tie in true biometrics within that. Your facial recognition could be audio or other forms of it, as well as the government ID, your passport or driver's license. And you can put all of these within your ID, and that becomes the self-declaration of who you are. As you go through different checkpoints, the very first time that you do that, it could be a government agency, it could be an airline, they actually have to look at your documentation, and if in that process they can certify who you are and attach that to who the ID is, now you can have a full identity of a person. Now you can go through different transactions without having to show paper documentation. And the way that we do that is we use the blockchain. So it starts out by scanning your image, as well as your ID information. We keep all the data within the mobile device itself. We encrypt the data and keep it there. But what we do is we create one-way hashes of the data that are digitally signed on your mobile device, and we put that on the blockchain. So what's on the blockchain is not your actual PII data, but data that you could use to be able to go back and validate your identity. Now, if you present that data, let's say to an airline, where they already have to check your ID information anyway, when they do that, they can actually go in and digitally create a signature that we refer to as the certification and put that on the blockchain as well. That record points back to what your original record is, but by doing that, they can actually vouch for who you are and say that we've looked at the physical person documentation, we don't need to do that process again. You could be taking that to a government agency, they could do the same thing where they look at your information, they create a separate certification. Now, from then on, you could take that to other airlines. If you got a connecting airline, it could be a hotel, different forms of, or different areas where you do your travel, where they can look at the information without having to verify who you are over and over again. In a transaction speed, they could verify your data. The data is always presented by the user from mobile device, and it's always validated on the blockchain. And that's the means that we can actually help shorter a lot of the lines so that you don't have to stand in those lines, show your documentation for products you've already prepaid for and you've purchased, but being able to just go in, let's say to your hotel, and just pick up your card key and go straight to your room, or being able to go through the check-in process at an airport security line, being able to go through. We have a lot more information and details on this if you're interested. We have a booth out there. Feel free to come by and ask us for either demos or to ask us more questions about it. Thank you.